Hello my friends, my name is Rich and welcome to Greatest Rock and Metal. On Greatest Rock and Metal I talk about what are for me the greatest rock bands, albums, gigs of all time based on listening to thousands of albums and going to hundreds of gigs over many years. If you enjoy what you see, please press the red button to subscribe to the channel. It's free, it's easy to do, it will only take a couple of minutes of your time. I'd be very grateful, thank you very much. Press that subscribe button, thank you. Okay, today is an album review and I've been very excited to want to do this album review. The album is the latest release from the band Greta Van Fleet, the album The Battle at Garden's Gate. Now, why have I been so excited to do this? Well, those of you who already know or have heard of Greta Van Fleet will also know about the controversy that surrounds this band. In 1969, a band by the name of Led Zeppelin released their debut album. Here it is. It was an album that went on to change rock music, change the lives of these four guys, and it spawned many other amazing albums and created a band that became one of the biggest bands in the world. And still today, they continue to sell many of their albums, and you will hear their songs played on radio stations, for those that still listen to radio stations, and on various things throughout the world today. Now, interestingly, in 1988, this album was released. Now, some of you may know of this and some of you may not. The band and the album name is Kingdom Come. This album and band created huge controversy because they sounded like Led Zeppelin. I first heard a track off this album and thought, wow, I love it. And I went out and I bought the album, and this has been one of my favourite albums ever since. I will cover that on a future episodes of Greatest Rock and Metal. But the controversy surrounding that album and that band was huge at the time. Led Zeppelin rip-offs, singer sounds just like Robert Plant, the songs are big Led Zeppelin rip-offs, they shouldn't be allowed. Well, if the songs are good, does it really matter? After all, those of you who know your Led Zeppelin history will know that Led Zeppelin have been had a history full of them having ripped off others. They've had tracks on their albums, examples on their debut album even, of songs that they took from old blues masters and claimed were their own. Okay, they reworked the songs a bit, quite a bit in some cases, but they still weren't their songs. And throughout Led Zeppelin's career, they've certainly taken parts and songs from others. Which leads us on to Greta Van Fleet. My introduction to Greta Van Fleet, like many, came in 2017. And I don't know exactly where I heard this song, but when I heard this, whoa, mama, introduction to the song Highway Tune, it was like, wow, what's this? And you've got the big Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin style riff there, you've got these towering Robert Plant-like vocals, you've got the pounding rhythm section, just like John Paul Jones and John Bonham of Zeppelin. It was like hearing Zeppelin without any shadow of a doubt. But this was modern day Zeppelin, and it was great. Absolutely fantastic song. A song that's had over 100 million Spotify plays, for those of you who are into Spotify, not my thing. 71 million views their video on YouTube for this song. It's a massive song, and it broke the band big time. It was closely followed by the Black Smoke Rising EP, and another massive song from it, a Safari song, another stunning track. And all of a sudden everyone was talking about this band, Greta Van Fleet, including me. I was recommending it to friends left, right and centre. I said, forget that it sounds like Led Zeppelin. It's brilliant. These songs are brilliant. The band themselves were formed in 2012 by three young brothers, the Kiska brothers, Joshua on vocals, Samuel on bass and keyboards, and Jacob on guitar. And they were joined a year later by drummer Daniel Wagner, and you can see a picture of them all there. Now, one of the other things I believe that has taken them to such quick and great success is not just the quality of the songs. They've got this boy band look as well. They're a very young band. I think today they're around 25 years old, something like that. They're in their mid-20s. So, you know, go back 2012, this was a very, very young band. And even at the time that they broke in 2017, we're talking early 20s here. So incredible that they were creating such music at such a young age. And what was also fascinating was the type of music that they're creating at such a young age. You know, going back to all the way back to the 60s and early 70s with their sound of music. So it was brilliant, and they very, very quickly have become the new rock band. They toured massively, and you could just see this constant rise in the size of the gigs that they were playing, so that when COVID hit, they were playing mainly getting up to arena size of gigs. They released another EP, this one here, From the Fires, and in fact this album version of From the Fires also includes the tracks from their first EP as well. And then their debut album, which came in 2018, Anthem of the Peaceful Army. Great album, great album. Which brings us all the way up to today, 2021, and the release of the Battle of Garden Gate. So, before I talk about this album, let's take a quick look at rock albums by the pool. Okay then, so the Battle of Garden's Gate, released April 2021, so just a month or so ago, and I've had a lot of time to live with this album now, and I have to say it needs it. Now, I don't say that in a negative way. The one thing that is about this album that differs very much from some of their previous releases, it's not as immediate. It doesn't have the songs on there like Safari Song or Highway Tune or Cold Wind from Anthems that really jump out at you. This is an album that takes some listening, like a lot of the classic albums take a little bit of listening. But I tell you what, give it the time it deserves and you will be truly rewarded. Now, before I talk about some of the tracks on the album, I just want to go back to this Led Zeppelin thing that I kicked off the episode with. the band themselves have not been so forthcoming in terms of their love of Led Zeppelin, and that's disappointing because it's very, very clear the influence of Led Zeppelin on their writing and their performance. And some of the interviews they've given and some of the critics are saying, oh, this album, this is where they leave Led Zeppelin behind and make their own stamp in the rock music world. Bollocks! This is still full on Led Zeppelin. You watch some of the videos that go along with this album as well. They even visually look like Led Zeppelin. You have Josh the singer preening like Robert Plant used to do. Now again, admittedly, Plant nicked a lot of his moves off Elvis Presley. It doesn't matter. It's great. Josh is a great frontman. He's great to watch. He's engaging. He's charismatic. He's got those boy band looks, which, although I don't fancy him myself, it still makes it an interesting watch. And then you've got Jacob on guitar. Not only does his guitar tone continue to sound like Jimmy Page's, he even plays the same kind of guitar as Jimmy Page. He has Jimmy Page's moves as well, the kind of rocking backwards and forwards. It's almost identical to Page. Sam, when he's playing bass, he's got the John Paul Jones kind of movement to him. Although admittedly Sam is a lot more energetic than John Paul Jones ever was. And the brilliant drumming of Daniel. Again, he's got a Bonham-esque drum sound and he plays as hard as Bonham did. Now, none of that matters because it's great, as were Led Zeppelin. And so just enjoy it for what it is. And that's what you'll do with this album. It's an album full of fantastic tracks. It's not a classic front to back. There's a few weaker tracks on the second half of the album, but the first half of the album is just killer after killer after killer. And it was actually tough to pick just my favourite four, which is something that I like to do. But here goes. As of today, these are my favourite four tracks. In fact, before I look at my favourite four tracks, let's just have a look at this. This is the vinyl version of the Battle at Gardens Gate. Now this is what they call an indie exclusive. How exclusive it is, I don't know. Some people have said there's about 1,000 copies of it. Not sure about that. Maybe a few more knocking around than that. I do know it's very difficult to get hold of now. It's got a beautifully embossed sleeve. It is a gatefold cover. Let me just take those out a minute. Gatefold cover with a very science fiction-y type image inside. Whoops. And no damage done, no damage done. And the title of the songs on the back. Beautiful, like gold lettering. It's a very well presented album. There is a booklet inside that is the lyric booklet, full of, again, science fiction, heavenly, whatever you want to call it, type imagery. Not sure what all these various symbols mean. And then at the back there, a portrait photo of the band. And this is pressed in white vinyl. It's a double album. I'll just show you one of them. Fantastic looking white vinyl there with a beautiful label of the album cover. Okay, so there you have it. Very nicely presented album indeed. So, what are my favourite four? Well, starts off with the first track, the opening track of the album, Heat Above. You've got a beautiful keyboard intro, and shout out to Sam, who's mainly been the bass player in the past, has introduced keyboards on the previous releases and live, but here throughout this album there's a lot more keyboard work, and it's absolutely stunning. It really does provide great riffs or atmosphere to the song. So you get a nice keyboard intro and then a mainly acoustic riff coming in, and then we get that soaring vocal of Josh. It's a nice mid-paced kind of start to the album. Very memorable melody and chorus. Can you feel my love rising in the heat above? Terrible mimicking version of that, but that's my crappy Josh stroke Robert Plant. I could probably do it better than that. Let's have a go. Can you feel my love? That'll do. Alright. So, it's nearly a 6-minute long introduction track to the album, but it's a great song. Next track I will soon choose is the second track, My Way Soon. Brilliant electric guitar riff opener to this song. Another memorable melody and chorus. Almost funky rhythm work, bass and drum work, and a great guitar solo on this one from Jacob. Is it a song about their touring life? Possibly. And one thing I should say about Greta Van Fleet, they are were, before COVID, a very hard working band. They toured a lot, and then when they finished the tour they went straight back in, did a new album, and this has actually sat on the shelves for a while. They've been working out when to release it because of the COVID situation, and it's finally had its release, even though it's been ready for a while. So another great track, My Way Soon. The next track I will choose is one of the earlier tracks that was released before the album, Age of Machine. Now this is a real epic track. It's got a haunting, repetitive kind of guitar riff, and that riff opens the song. Just for the first minute you get this repetitive and you've got this background kind of atmospheric vocal from Josh as well. It's a great way to open the track, and then it explodes into this epic kind of song that's I'm guessing is about the effects of technology on our age today, and maybe the effect it will have on us in the future. Not really sure, but something like that. And great musicianship on this song, and some great guitar solos in it. And then the fourth track I will pick is unusually for me, because I tend to like my rock hard, is a ballady type song, Tears of Rain. Beautiful song, fantastic acoustic guitar and piano based ballad. Again, Sam's keyboard work brilliantly showcased on this song, and it's also, in my opinion, some of Josh's best vocal work on the album as well. Now, Josh's vocals are another area which people talk about a lot. Many people try to find it hard to deal with the constant high-pitched tone that he uses, similar to Rush's Geddy Lee. I spoke about Robert Plant before, of course, and I myself would say that it would be nice to hear a little bit more of Josh's lower register throughout the album, rather than feeling like he's got to really pick it up and high-pitched or scream it out. But needless to say, all four of the band are in peak form on this album, and Josh's vocals hit their very heights for me on this track. And song about maybe global warming and drought. The big refrain at the end, who will bring the rain? Who will bring the rain? The clouds. And I just say again, the keyboard work from Samuel on this song is fantastic. Check out the video as well. Really, really great video. So there you have it. That's my favourite four. There's four. There's other great tracks on here as well, but as it stands today, they are the four that I will choose. So overall, as a summary for this album, if any of you got any hang-ups of the Led Zeppelinisms, get over them and just get the album and enjoy the album. Like I said right at the beginning, it needs a few listens to get into, but once you do, you'll really find some amazing work on this album. There are a few downsides. I've mentioned Josh's vocals. It would be nice to hear a little bit more variety there. The album, in my opinion, is a little bit too long. It's about 63 minutes long. Again, you think back to the classic albums. I've mentioned this before on previous episodes. The classic albums were always about 40 minutes long. And I wish bands would get back to that. You know, if they took 3 tracks of this album, it would just completely blow you away. Now, of course, nowadays we can all do that with playlists or whatever, and does it really matter if you're getting extra music? But I think it does. If you want to go down in rock and metal history, make classic albums. You know, we still talk about today Led Zeppelin's 1, 2 and 4 albums as being classic. You've got Rainbow Stargazer, you've got Black Sabbath's Heaven and Hell, or Paranoid albums. I could go on and on with all these classic albums that are about 40 minutes long. So producers, bands themselves, it will do yourself a favour to edit yourself a little bit and just cut down the length of some of those albums, because it's very, very rare bands can make absolute classic albums that are over that amount of time. It does happen, of course, but I think you've got more chance of doing it if you do a 40-minute album. And save some of those songs. If you really think they're great songs, save them for your next release. And another thing I would say about this album, now this is not a criticism, this is just my thoughts on their future. It doesn't have as many instantly catchy songs as some of their previous tunes. There's no Highway Tune or Safari song on here at all. And I'm not sure how that's going to translate in terms of their career, especially as they've been off the road for so long and they're having great success on the road. It's possible they could have turned into one of those trendy bands that have now had their time because they weren't able to keep it going. Because I don't see these as being the kind of songs that maybe will get on the radio or in areas where they will get the kind of mass appeal that some of their previous songs did. And that will be interesting to see if they're able to come back after the or into next year now, I guess it's going to be, and see how successful they continue to be. I hope it works for them. It deserves to work for them, and it'd be great for all rock fans to get behind them, because we truly do need some new bands to support out there. So there you have it. That's my thoughts on the Battle of Garden Gate. Please press the red button to subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the review. And until next time, as always, remember, we rock!